Well, have you ever had difficulty expressing exactly what you wanted to say, or perhaps struggled to find the right words in a conversation over the phone? If you have, you're not alone.
Yeah, Mary Jane Cops, a.k.a. the phone lady, saying she spotted the rise of what she's calling phone phobia, a new trend emerging of younger people who were never taught how to speak on the phone, opting instead to send emails or texting or direct messaging rather than directly speak with people on the phone. And get this, she's now offering a class, a coaching service to help them overcome their cellular jitters. The cost of that class, $480 an hour. She joins us live. Mary Jane, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate that.
Good morning.
Before we jump into exactly what's happening, I have to ask, are people actually paying you to do this?
I'll clarify that the majority of my clients are CEOs or senior VPs who have a team of individuals that are struggling with phone anxiety or want to improve their phone skills. If someone's going to work with me one-on-one, the coaching charge is $195. So that's a substantial difference.
Oh, I see. All right. So you've got essentially teams of people who use communication with one another to include over-the-phone conversations. Have you noticed that people have really struggled to communicate their thoughts with others when it comes to actual dialogue?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been the phone lady for 17 years, and phone phobia existed at that time, but it wasn't something that I was encountering with my clients at all. Phone anxiety has increased, I would say, over the last 8 years, and it isn't only Gen Zs, although they're a big part of the audience that I work with, but it's anyone who has structured their communication with words on a screen. Suddenly, when they have to have a real-time conversation, they start to feel quite anxious about that.
That's very interesting. Okay, so if I can ask you, the bottom line, there's a charge, obviously, for your service. Understandably, it's a coaching service. So if they called, let's say a Gen Z called and say, hey, I have phone phobia. I'd like some help on understanding how to, talk to someone on the phone. Could you kind of walk us through what a coaching session would look like?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we have is a discovery call, and so there's no charge for that. And we talk about how they would express this anxiety they're feeling when it occurs. So examples I can give you, one particular student who was really struggling, she was great at her job, but she had major anxiety every time the phone rang. We discovered that her big fear was that she would lose control over the call, that it would take longer than she had, that she would get asked a question she couldn't answer. So once we identified that's what was making her anxious, we worked on that.
I know when you're conducting an email or a conversation over text messages, you can kind of write out what you want to say, and of course you can delete it if it doesn't come out exactly how you want. How does that play into conducting a phone conversation?
Well, that's a perfect example. So there's a huge connection between talking on the phone and public speaking. We have to think in our feet. As the three of us are having this conversation, each of us is thinking about what the other person is asking or saying, and we're going to work with that. And so if that's something you haven't done or you haven't done in a long time, then there are skills you need to have in place. And a lot of people haven't been given those skills in the same way that my generation has, and some generations below me as well.
I want to ask you this, and it can be yes or no, or if you want to elaborate, but has your coaching services, have you seen an uptick since the pandemic? You remember a lot of folks had to stay at home and do these Zoom calls, work from home via Zoom. Some high schoolers as well, maybe some college kids could not go to campus. And that changed in terms of how we communicate in person. Maybe a lot of this was done over email. Have you seen an uptick because of the pandemic and maybe some of the lockdowns that we've seen?
Yeah, 100%, and even corporately too. So one of my big projects early in 2020 was with a team in Australia that were used to having all their conversations with their clients face to face, and they couldn't do that anymore. So right across the board, in 2020, things were really busy.
Well, a lot of people have gotten used to remote working or just communicating over email or Slack. Mary Jane, do you think your services will be needed in the future?
I do. I mean, there was a time, I would say 10 years ago, where I hesitated. I thought, well, maybe the phone will disappear, but that doesn't seem to be happening at all. In fact, a lot of employers do their first job interview on the phone. So it's important for all ages to not abandon the skill to be able to still conduct conversations on the phone.
Obviously, we can go to your website. We can find more information. I'm sure pricing's on there and maybe what would cater to your needs as we take a live look at it. But if I have you here and viewers are watching now, can we get one tip on the house, maybe something very general or broad, some advice that you would give to those that maybe do have difficulty picking up the phone today?
The very first thing that I say, and it works every time, is start by calling friends or family. Just for a day or 2 days, stop texting, stop emailing, maybe set it up ahead of time. Let's talk tomorrow for 7 minutes and have more phone calls so that you can get used to the skills.
There you go. More phone calls in 2023. That's a good plan. We'll call our parents later today. All right, Mom, schedule that in. Mary Jane Cops, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it too.
You're welcome.